Good evening, friends. It is a little past 6:30. Those of you who are joining us online, those of you who are current parents, some prospective parents, and some brand new parents who are joining our school next week, I am honored that you all are here for Vision Night. And there are many online. We have the camera here, but I wanted to get started here with the, let me just share, I came across this quote the other day that just kind of really spoke to me, and I put it on my wall. I don't keep things on my wall forever, but this one was important. It was from an author that I studied in college, and her name is Flannery O'Connor. She's a Southern writer, a Christian writer, and she said, and I don't know where she said this, but it's attributed to her. She said, push back against the age as hard as you can, as it pushes against you. What people don't realize is how much religion costs. They think faith is a big electric blanket, when of course it is the cross. This is the day and age in which we live, and there is a lot of very many viewpoints and confusion, and the purpose of a night like this is to help us to bring clarity to our vision. Now, I'm so impressed that Mr. Foster wore his night glasses for Vision Night, so that's a new look for you, Ron Foster. And he said, well, I'm wearing that. I said, for Vision Night. And he was right there with me, so that's fun. Tonight, I'm going to talk about some who, some where we've been, some where we are, and then where we're headed. And then the guiding principles that keep us moving in that right direction. But first of all, I am grateful for the amazing team of people that I have, that you all work with in a variety of capacities. But I do want to acknowledge and introduce some of our team members so that, and I'm not sure of the wide camera angle, but if we can make sure if you could just come up to the center as I call your name, and I'm going to introduce the administrative team. And I am the principal and have been since August 10th of 2015. And then we have new this year, Vice Principal of Operations, Mr. John Hawes. We appreciate him. We'll talk about him a little more. Vice Principal of Academics, Melody Heal. Our new preschool director, Wendy Villas. Our front office person, Lori Bryden. She's right over here. And Barbara Sargent, our finance person. She's a, yeah. These are the individuals that handle operations, and we'll talk about Mr. Haas's work on COVID, Mrs. Heal with academics and faculty support, Miss Villas on our preschool department. Lori Bryden is the core of our school office operations and keeps me in line. And then Barbara Sargent handles our finances and our human resources. These people with me form what I've this year called our cabinet. I meet with them regularly, touching base with them constantly in all these various aspects of the school. So in addition to that, I have a larger admin team that also includes Kim Aslan, our Director of Admissions. I saw her here earlier. Okay. She's outside greeting. And then Ellie Karapides is our registrar and our Director of Communications. And she's outside doing the same thing. And then Daniel Northrup is our Director of Fine Arts, our houses. He's up there running sound. He's amazing all over the place. We love Mr. Northrup. So this is the team that really guides and helps us implement the mission of Bethany Christian School. So I'll have you go. They can go ahead and sit down. Thank you so much. There are also some key groups of people. I'm not going to have them stand. I'm going to mention them. Some will be introduced to stand up later. But certainly our preschool faculty and staff, our K-8 faculty and staff, our PTF board, and many of them at the hospitality they've done tonight is just an example of what they do for us ongoingly. The BCS board, which is a wonderful covering. I have worked in 3 schools. This is the best supportive board that I have ever worked with. Then Bethany Church of Sierra Madre, who is we are a ministry of Bethany Church, and the church has been so supportive. And I want to also mention Pastor Bryant Cuffey. Bryant and his family will be moving on to some new opportunities very shortly. And this coming Sunday is his last Sunday in the pulpit here at Bethany Christian School. So we have been praying for him, and we are so honored. He has been key in the support that I have had as the principal of Bethany Christian School. And I may mention that a little further in a moment. So those are the people, all the entities. And then, of course, that's just the kind of the framework. But in the midst of all that is our focus, our mission, which is to partner with parents to educate, develop, and nurture students for a life of Christ-centered excellence in academics, Christian character, and servant leadership. More about that. But our students, and then you all as parents. And so the primary audience today is all of our parents, those who are invested in the lives of their students and are partnering with our teachers to help these students develop lives of Christ-centered excellence. As I look back to 2015, I want to share just a little bit of my journey. People wonder, how did you end up here, Dr. Wallner? It's interesting. 7 years ago, I don't know if Mrs. Heel remembers, but she was doing a one-day in-service for faculty here at Bethany Christian School, and she invited me. I was at a small starting school in Anaheim, and I've known Mrs. Heel since we taught in adjacent classrooms in 1981. She was a fifth grade teacher, and I was a fourth grade teacher. And the next year I became the school principal, and she taught fifth grade. And so we've had a professional relationship ongoingly for all the years. But she called me in July. She invited me to my faculty to come on that day in January of 2015. In July of 2015, she gave me a call and said, Bill, I don't know if you would be interested or available, but we are needing an interim school principal here at Bethany Christian School. So we have a 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock people scheduled to interview, and the 8 o'clock person just canceled. By any chance, could you come tonight at 8 o'clock? And I said, well, sure, I would love to drive to Sierra Madre on a beautiful summer afternoon. So, and I was at a position where I had ended a 3-year commitment at my school, and I did not know where I was going. But I've learned in my life that God directs my steps, and I just say, I don't worry. I just say, hey, Lord, you know when that time is. So that July 14th was the day I drove up, met up in the Ministry Center Library with a wonderful team of people, and had a wonderful conversation. And the next day, the chairman of the school board, Stephanie Chasen, called me about 10 o'clock in the morning and said, Bill, we would like to offer you the position to be the principal of Bethany Christian School on an interim basis. And well, I said, I'm very honored by that, but I need to have one other conversation. I've already had the conversations with my wife, so you need to know she was in the loop on all of this. And I said, I need to have a conversation with the pastor, because my experience in over 30 years of Christian school education at the time was that if the pastor of the church is not supportive of the school, then quite often, and he had been here a year, and I wanted to find out his commitment to the school, because if the pastor's not supportive, often within 2 or 3 years there is no school. And immediately he said, I am absolutely, he's been a high school teacher at a Christian high school. He taught Bible. His wife had been a teacher at Bethany Christian School. They had their daughter. Their intention was for Calia to come, and that's exactly what has happened. And we have together, the two of us have worked to build the relationship between the church and the school. And I just want to express my appreciation for Pastor Cuffey as he is going on to his next time. But he has been a wonderful support of this school and of me personally as the director, of the principal of the school. On August 10th was my first day. I had been on a family vacation. In fact, I signed my contract at the end of July on my way to Carmel with my family, my wife and her mother. And when I arrived on August 10th, I was in my office alone, and the first person to come in was Mrs. Heel. And she says, hello, Bill, welcome. You are here for such a time as this. And it's a very wonderful sentiment from the story of Esther. And I've told the faculty this before. And immediately I said, thank you, Melody. But in the back of my mind, it was like the Holy Spirit was saying, in that story, there's death involved. And so I wasn't alarmed, but I was warned. The Holy Spirit does that. He drops information to us to think, oh, to make us alert, to be on the lookout. And so I just began seeing what the Lord was going to do. There were some things that needed to die, but other things needed to be brought to life. And I'm so honored by what God has done in the last 7 years, that there are some things that we've been able to release and let go, and other things we've been to embrace and bring to life. The third day on the job, Mrs. Sargent came to me, and we decided, she was thinking, I think the new guy should probably talk about the budget a little bit, and she's so good at that. And she said, did they tell you about the anticipated academic shortfall? And I said, oh, I guess I didn't ask the right questions. They were so excited to have a live person come in and do this. And I knew the Lord was directing me, so I really didn't ask a lot of questions. And she says, well, Bill, there was about, the way it looks right now, we have about $250,000 shortfall and may not finish the school year. And I said, well, the Lord knows what we're doing. And so I alerted the faculty. We began to pray. We did not announce it to everybody because we didn't want everybody to go, and jump ship and leave us really like we went. But those who were part of the family of faith here at the school, and many of you were here, not all the faculty who's here now was here then. And we began to pray, and Mrs. Heel and the preschool director at the time, Mrs. Elliott, and I, we spent a day up in what is now Mr. Foster's classroom and looked at the budget and just went through it line by line, prayerfully line by line. And by the end of the day, and it took us all day, we were able to reduce the bottom line to about $150,000 in the red, so to speak. But began to pray, and God began doing some amazing things. There was some shift in personnel, some of the expenses we had anticipated, insurance rates changed, we had an influx of enrollment in the preschool, and things we could not count on, but happened, and month by month. One of my interesting comments at those budget meetings, or those board meetings, would be Barbara's financial report, and she would say, well, I think this is in December, I think we've got enough to keep the school open until March. I said, well, great, let's pray. And then she came in January. I think it looks like we might have enough to get us to April. And then we got to March, and she, fingers crossed, praying, we might just make it to May, And then finally we said, you know what, we're going to make it to the end of the school year. Do you know, we closed that school year, the 2015-2016 school year, $500 in the black. Now, that is God. Now, in the midst of all of that, we had a lot of transition changes, prayerful changes, new people leave, people come, and I did not have to fire anybody. It just sort of happened, circumstances of life, and God made it clear, and our board chairman commented once, he said, we've had a lot of changes, but in every case, we've had an upgrade. and it's true. God began bringing some wonderful people on the team. And so I knew that God's presence was here. I had been here probably 3 or 4 months, and they said, Bill, would you be willing to accept this as a permanent position? And my wife and I said, let my wife and I pray about this. And so we did, and in January, so that would be 6 years ago, I was able to tell the board, I'm going to be here as long as the Lord wants me here. About 2 years ago, I began realizing that my age-ometer was increasing. And there was a moment, and I went back. My wife and I were praying, and I said, I need to begin getting the board ready for my departure. Sometime in the future. It's not urgent. It's not like I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I want to give them plenty of notice. And I did. And we prayed, and we felt led that it was really important that we reach out to a consultant group to help us draft, to do 2 things. To draft a strategic plan and to guide us in a transition plan. And the first request was a transition plan, and they said, really what you need is a strategic plan. So in 2 years ago, in 2020, we had these consultants come, 2 gentlemen, wonderful, godly men who walked us through. They interviewed the faculty, they interviewed the students, some middle school students, they've interviewed the board, and talked to us about goals and all of that, and then helped us draft a strategic plan, which I will share in a little bit, our progress on it. And so that really began to shift the board's thinking and helped us identify a direction we needed to go. In terms of the transition, one of the key things was we were anticipating there were other transitions and besides mine on the table in that 2 or 3 year period. And the thought was, we need somebody at the core of that who can know what's going on internally in the school. And so I began, I remember the day that Mrs. Elliott and I were sitting at our ACSI Christian School Teacher Convention, and our faculty was on this big round table of 12 students, 12 people, and we're just talking, and they were all talking about their personalities and all of these kind of things, and Mrs. Elliott and I looked at each other, and she and I had been talking. She was working on her BA at Hope International, and I said, and she was in a leadership class, I think, and she said, can you see can you see all of these are leaders? Can you see which are the leaders? And it became clearly evident. And one of those was Mr. Hawes. So we began watching him and seeing him as he matured in his position of teaching 6th grade. If you know Mr. Hawes, he was actually a student at Bethany. He was a 2nd grader up to 8th grade, graduated, went off to Maranatha High School, Long Beach State, Azusa Pacific University, came back to us as a STEM coordinator for a year, for part-time for a year, and playground and stuff. And then cleared his credential and came back and then taught 6th grade for us. So he's been on our staff now for 6 years, 5 years, 6 years. This is his 6th year, and we thought we need to give him some leadership training and also give him an opportunity. So this year he agreed to be the vice principal of operations, and our original intent was that he would be in position so that when the new head of school comes in after me, he would be there to support that. But as we began walking through the summer and the fall and interviewing candidates and looking at this, we began to realize that really we feel so good about the direction that God is doing, and to have someone within our program move forward into that role. And for July 1st, John became Vice Principal Operations. And you announced, as we did it in December, we announced that John is going to be the head of school beginning July 1st of this year. So that gives me 6 months to walk alongside. And actually, lately it's not been walking, we've been running. We're pretty close to wiped out sometimes, and so I said, you go home, you can take a break. I'm going to go home. My plan was, as I'm retiring, because of some personal issues, I don't want to play a violin, but I want to just be transparent with you all about me personally and why I'm working the schedule that we've determined for me. And I have in the fall, since the fall, been working just 3 days a week. That is to ease into retirement because in 2020, as you know, it's almost 2 years since we received the notice that we needed to close school for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And we went through longer than a 2-week period. The challenge, and our faculty jumped into online learning, and all of you jumped into online learning. We all kind of did a woo. And we finished the school year. And personally, the stress of all of that, unusual impact on me. And at the end of July, Mrs. Seward, thank you for being here, by the way, Mrs. Seward. I didn't mention you earlier, but thank you. She and Barbara and the board realized I was not doing well. It was determined at the end of July for me to take a leave of absence, and we plugged in the holes that needed to be, and I kind of limped through the fall until we were able to come back to school last year. But even the stress of all of that, but what happened in that summer of 2020 is that I have regular medical checkups, and there's a certain score that is usually less than 5, and suddenly in October it was over 20. And they looked carefully. We did a scan and discovered that there were some dark spots in my prostate. And a year ago, I did a scan, actually a biopsy, and discovered that 14 of 16 biopsies contained cancer. So I've had a hard time dealing with that, but I work with the Kaiser urologist, and I'm working with the a functional integrative medical doctor, and so we're doing a watchful waiting period and monitoring all of that. So this has been quite an interesting season for me personally, in addition to my wife and I caring for her mother. So I have not been 100%. Lately, though, things have stabilized at home. My health is feeling very good. I have to remind myself that I'm not, that I have something going on that I have to take care of. And next week, I begin a process to get further clarity on that. I share all that to say, I'm not the only one who's had those kinds of derisive things. Our faculty members have all had unique things. We've had babies, we've had illnesses, not COVID, just other stuff. And then, on top of all of it, as you all have experienced, on top of just everyday things in life, is all of this COVID management stuff. And so our faculty have just honed in on our things we're going to be sharing in just a moment to really make sure that we are providing a wonderful program for our kids and that we're focused on that. So I hope I have not shared too personally on that, but I wanted you to give you an idea of some of the things that we're all have been dealing with. And even just this month, there was a day when we had 8 members of our staff, preschool through 8th grade, absent. By God's grace, we had substitute teachers, Mrs. Karapides and Mrs. Aslan and Mr. Northup jumped into outside of the normal responsibilities to cover some classes. And you probably heard stories when the kids came home, oh, we had Mr. Northup today. There was a day, a wonderful afternoon that I had to spend with the 2nd grade a couple weeks ago. That was delightful. But we've been having to plug in some holes, and the people who've really been busy with this, I want to commend and put hats off to Mr. Hawes and Mrs. Bryden in terms of scheduling all of the substitutes. And then Mrs. Sargent, because whenever someone substitutes, there's additional time card information and requests for time off and all those adjustments that need to be made for absences on the payroll, to where Barbara came in and she goes, I finally got payroll done because the yellow sheet stack was so big. Our largest payroll ever was because of this month, because of all of the substitutes and guest teachers that we have brought into the school. Now, let me say, a couple of weeks ago, we had a faculty meeting, and honestly, I watched the faculty, and I could see they were exhausted and they were drained. Mrs. Heel is very in tune to that as well. And we met with the faculty and said, here, we would like to propose and have all of us consider, should we close school during that 3-day week, which should have been last week? Should we close school? And then they talked. And 6 or 7 of them were online in that meeting because they were at home. And then so we have been all over the place. But I just want to, I share this because when I watched the faculty, they walked through some questions, which I'll share in a minute, because first of all, what is best for students? The students need to be in school. And then they said, what is best for parents? For you not to have to miss work, for you not to have to mess up your schedule. Now, in the midst of that, we did have to close some classrooms because of COVID contact and that kind of a thing. And the one who's been managing all that is Mr. Hawes, and he's been smiling in the midst of all of that, at least publicly. Now, in my office, so in our office, we both kind of grit our teeth and glare. But let me just kind of go back. Maybe I got off track a bit, forgive me. But I wanted to just say, when I first came to Bethany, I shared that story of that first year. But one thing that I picked up really quickly was the very special place that this school is. I'd known of Bethany since 1991. I've known of Bethany Christian School and my work with the Association of Christian Schools International. But I found at core a very strong academic program and a strong core of faculty and a spirit of faith. So I asked the Lord, what is your mission for me? What is my first task? And there were 2 things. Number 1, help the school get back to focus on its mission. And then secondly, I heard the Lord say, just ask me for 3 words. I said, okay, Lord, I'm asking you for 3 words that will guide my year. And actually, it's guided my 7 years. And recently, the Lord has brought those 3 words back to me. And they are these: clarity, honor, unity. Clarity, because when I asked questions as a new guy, what about this, what about that? And I was getting different answers wherever I went. There was not clarity. As a result, people were not able to honor one another effectively, or honor their job role, or understand their lane. And we needed to build a culture of honor. It was that year we started the Veterans Day, not simply, but primarily to teach our students to honor and have that mentality of honor. And my discovery was that as we brought clarity and as we brought honor, then we began to see unity. And the unity of the believers is a hallmark of the Christian church when it is clearly evident. And I knew it in about year 3. I was giving a tour. In fact, I'd had an open house, and a parent had come, a father had come, and he said, I need to bring my wife back. We made an appointment. The following week, she came back, and we walked through the campus and the tour. And we stood right up here where you did your name tags, at the top of the steps, concluding the tour, and she said to me, we've been looking for our family, we've been looking at a number of Christian schools. And I didn't know what I was missing at those schools until I came here to Bethany. I said, you mind sharing what that is? She says, the presence of God. And in my spirit, I said, thank you. I've shared this with the faculty, but I shared this in the context. We must hold that close. We have prayed through our campus. In fact, Mr. Foster expressed to me a concern. I'm really concerned about us going around praying for buildings. And I said, well, we're not really praying for the buildings. We're praying for what happens in the buildings. Because God does not live in buildings. He lives in his people. And his people, all of us, parents, students, teachers, when we are aware and welcoming the presence of God in our lives, then we are, all, as a community, sensing his presence. And that has really been a guiding thing for our school. Now, you know who does not really like that to happen? I call him the enemy of our souls. Today in chapel, I spoke to our students in reference to we sometimes call him the devil or we call him Satan. But we call them evil forces. But the point is, the presence of God is not honored, and the presence of God is distracted. And the thing that can destroy the unity that brings the presence of God is division. What does the enemy use for division? Fear, guilt, shame, condemnation. Those are the main ones. The enemy comes like a thief, and the thief comes only to kill, to steal, and to destroy. Those are the principles that I'm very aware of as in my job as a leader of this school and a shepherd of this flock. So whenever I see a division come up, I have been taught, it's not just from me, but I've been taught in my training from my parents who were pastors and been under pastoral leadership in various churches, that when you see the enemy come in like, when division rears its head, its ugly head like a snake, there's two responses. We can run in fear, or we just cut it off at the head. Well, I am not going to run in fear. We are not people of fear. We are people of faith. In fact, some of you know this, and if you don't haven't seen this, I have these in my pocket often. Several of my team members have this in their pocket. I shared this with the room parents the other day. And there's a little jar in our office. If you're in an office and want one of these, I have 3 or 4 in my pocket, so see me after. It's a little wooden coin. I've had some 8th grade girls a couple years ago take a whole bag of them, and on one side, they've written the word faith. Hebrews 11:6, which is, without faith, it is impossible to please God. You turn it over, and the other side says fear. Proverbs 28:1. The wicked run from anything, but the righteous are as bold as the lion. I look at Kathy Ambrose because I asked for a school verse, and she brought to me that verse, and it's on my door of my office. The righteous are bold as a lion. Now, lions are not brash, okay? They move appropriately and quickly at the right time. And that's the attitude we want to have when we see certain things that we need to do. So if you'd like one of the, and the point is, you cannot look at both sides of this coin at the same time. You cannot unless you're cross-eyed. And even then, that's not a good place to be. So you've got to either look at fear or you look at faith. Well, our choice is to be people of faith. So that's kind of where we're going here. And so I have a lot on my plate these last couple of days. In fact, my sister reminded me on a phone conversation last week, Dr. Clyde Cook, who was president of Bayou University for 25 years, was a good friend of our families. And she reminded me that on his desk was a little plaque that said, "There are many keys to success. There is one certain key to failure, and that's trying to please everyone." You may have heard attributed sometimes to Abraham Lincoln, you can please some of the people all the time and all the people some of the time, but you cannot please all the people all the time. And honestly, I can kill myself trying to do exactly that. So I do want everybody to be happy about being here at Bethany Christian School, but I have to put on my institutional hat and not always on my personal view. Because my personal view is very self-focused. It's about me. But when I am serving you, it's not about me. It's about the wide community. And you know, this is a pretty, even though we're all believers, I think 95% of us are strong believers in this family, a community of faith, we are all still very different. And we see life through a little bit of a different lens here or there. And so my heart, as the scripture would teach, is that we want to be compassionate to all and take into all viewpoints and to be integrous in the walk. The Lord has given me scriptures to memorize. They just kind of drop in and says, "This is one you need to memorize, Bill." And so in my drive, I'll put it on and practice. And about, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, Psalm 26 came to me, and I said, "This is interesting, Lord. I've already memorized Psalm 27. I got Psalm 23 down, but why 26? And then I began working on it. And as I memorized each phrase by phrase, it was like, okay, Lord, I understand now. And it goes like this. "Vindicate me," and this is New King James Version. "Vindicate me, Lord, for I have walked in my integrity. I've also walked with the Lord. I will not slip. Examine me, prove me, try my mind and my heart. For your loving kindness is before my eyes, and I have walked in your truth. I've not sat with idolatrous mortals, nor will I go in with hypocrites. I have hated the assembly of evildoers, and I will not sit with the wicked. I have washed my hands in innocence so that I can go about your altar and declare with a voice of thanksgiving all of your wondrous works. I have loved the habitation of your house, the place where your glory dwells. Do not gather my soul with sinners, or my life with bloodthirsty men in whose hand is a sinister scheme and whose mouth is full of bribes. But as for me, I will walk in my integrity. Redeem me, Lord. Be merciful to me. I stand in an even place. In the congregation, I will bless the Lord." All of that I have said so far in today is to point to what God wants to do here at Bethany Christian School. I've had parents tell me, she says, we looked at other Christian schools, and they said, what? There were other schools that were shinier, that were prettier, had this or had that. But they said what drew us to here was this clear vision of who God is at Bethany Christian School, and that our children are being raised in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. The Lord God directed Moses to encourage the people. And this shows up several times in Deuteronomy. In fact, in Mark, Jesus was asked by one of these Pharisee attorney types. He says, so Jesus, of all of this Bible that I know, what exactly is the best one of these commandments? And Jesus did not skip a beat. He said, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. And you will love him with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, and all of your strength." Oh, and by the way, the second greatest commandment is love others as you love yourself. Jesus took it right back to love. And those four things, loving God with our heart, soul, mind, and strength, line, some of you have heard our four L words, and they are live, love, learn, and lead. And those connect to our heart, soul, mind, and strength. Live with heart, love with honor, learn with habit, and lead with humility. We do that by reciting our mission frequently and asking for questions. And I'm almost done with my part, and I'll pass it on to my team on specifics, because I'm laying the foundation here. We can move on to foundation philosophy. Maybe I said this, did I say this? Did I give the four questions already? Okay. I got started and I got distracted. What is best for students? What is best for teachers and parents? What is best for the school? And are we honoring God and his word in the way we answer those questions? And boy, that has come up in that I'm very proud because our faculty jumps into those questions sometimes before I do, and just appreciate their work on that. All right, let's go to strategic plan. There we go. There are 5 pillars in our strategic plan that was founded in 2020. And number 1, we want to grow our enrollment strategically, and we have done that in the 7 years since, actually in the last couple of years, since 2015, the school enrollment has grown 41% in the K through 8. We've gone down a little bit in the preschool, but we have some new strategies to help build in that area. Secondly, to cultivate philanthropy. We began this year our annual fund. That was a step of faith. We had never done that before. It was kind of a little unnerving, and I tasked Mr. Haas with that first responsibility. He took it on in July, worked with the philanthropy committee of the board, although the board is still figuring out this new approach, but it's based on giving people an opportunity to give to a mission of a school based upon the prosperity God has done for them and what God directs them. And if you have not heard, our goal was $55,000, and as of a couple weeks ago, we brought the annual fund has collected $57,000, which is outstanding, outstanding. 2 years ago, we did a big jogathon, and we grossed $40,000, but almost half of that went to the fundraising company, and so we only netted about $20,000. So this is a big growth for us. It's a big change, and I really want to commend Mr. Haas and Barbara Sargent, and also Sherry Seward helped some of the data management on that. So and then also an army, small, but a powerful army of parents wrote handwritten thank you letters to all of those who participated. So thank you to them as well. Anyway, next, we want to govern strategically. And the board has restructured itself so it can be efficient in its management and its annual calendar. And they're looking at their future and how they're moving forward in that. And then also equipping faculty for excellence, and Mrs. Heel is going to talk about that in a minute. And then strengthening finances and facilities. A couple of our strategic things for the annual fund have to do with our facilities and classrooms and creating the learning environment and refurbishing some facility areas that we can. The stairway is, I actually with the contractor for the stairway, and if it had not been for the wind, they would have taken out the booth that's out there. So that's scheduled at some point here, and working on that. So it's a little bit out of my hands here. But one thing we're working on is what we call our PRISM, a provision for plant replacement, renewal, and special maintenance. And then our accreditation team came, and they affirmed our need to transition for the new head of school, the long-term planning, and then our tracking and managing our curriculum. So our curriculum, our accreditation team was very affirmative. One of the things, though, I want to share that they observed in meeting with their students, they said what came clearly was the students feel safe at Bethany. They feel cared for and loved. Their teachers are kind and love them. And the team visited all the classrooms and whatnot, and they were just amazed at just the team that we have and how that's working. So enough from me. I hope you hear my heart. We are dealing with a lot of questions, but we are making changes only as appropriate and staying true to our plans in terms of our school operation for this school year. And spent a lot of time on the phone. We're doing a lot of research right now, so we'll take a look at that, and then we'll be sharing some things in the weeks ahead. I would like for Mr. Haas to come and share next on our mission and some of the specific things that he's scheduled to work on. So, Mr. Haas, again, I want to thank you for agreeing to be head of school and for being a wonderful partner at this point. I'm also I'm also very aware he's watching me closely. It's a little scary.
Yeah, eagle-eyed, right? Just locked in. Thank you, Dr. Wallner. Thank you for giving us that history of kind of where we've been the last few years and kind of where we're going and the strategic plan and the things we've been working on. And thank you, parents, for coming tonight. Thank you for faculty and staff for coming as well. I see board members as well. Thank you, board members, for being here. Go to the next slide after the... So my point, next one after this, actually. Yeah, my point is I'm here to talk a little bit about our mission and vision. And if you've been around the school for any length of time, Dr. Wallner always starts with our mission. So if you know it, you can say it with me. Otherwise, I'll say it by myself, and that's totally fine. Bethany Christian School mission is to partner with parents to educate, develop, and nurture students for a life of Christ-centered excellence in academics, Christian character, and servant leadership. These are our guiding values. These are our mission, right? That's why we're here. We are here to partner with you. We are here to give your students the best education that we can with the resources that God has given to us. We are here to guide them in their development of their Christian walk, and as well as part of the Christian walk is also being a servant leader. Jesus was the best example of that. So I'm going to talk about these 3 points. The first point I would like to talk about, though, is Christian character. I know academics is mentioned first, and that's ultimately what we are. We are a school. But for the sake of the flow of the night, Mrs. Heel is going to talk about academics, so it made more sense for me to end with academics and then hand it off to her. But also, probably the most important thing is the development of your children's faith and just their character and all the components of that. So, where we are going, and Dr. Wallner has given us a firm foundation, and I have no plans of deviating from the light of the darkness. Dr. Wallner mentioned today in chapel for both the K-5 and the middle school chapel that he used the analogy of the light on the hill. And we are living in times where the world is becoming darker. I think we can all see that and acknowledge that. And it is important for us as an institution, as well as Christian people, to make sure that our students have the values that God would have us, that we stand on His truth, regardless of what's going on in the wider world, and that is of utter priority to us. And so that is something that I of course, will continue to support, and we as a staff will continue to instill in our students. In terms of kind of the changes that have happened, one of the big impacts of COVID is that we have not really been able to gather as a community. A big part of our Christian walk is our community. And so that is something that I would also like to see us revisit in the coming years, is our PTF is amazing. And we do thank you our PTF, everyone who's here, in, whether you're on the PTF board or you are just part of the PTF and you volunteer your time. We thank you. You do a wonderful job of hospitality, and we look forward to seeing that develop and grow and really rebuild all those connection points that were lost as a result of this COVID season. Servant leadership. We provide many opportunities for our students, or at least we have in the past, and we brought some back this year. We weren't really able to do that last year with the first half being online and the second half many restrictions. And so we would see that the students would continue to have opportunities in class to serve their classmates and be leaders in those roles. We would see them have at events, if you've been to any of our events in previous years, the middle schoolers step up, and they have a wonderful job, and they do a wonderful job of helping and serving and being a guiding, welcoming people, guiding them to where they're supposed to be. And so we would continue with that as well. In the house system, there's also opportunities. We've talked about in the middle school bringing it down. Obviously, it goes all the way down, but opportunities for the upper elementary, 4th and 5th graders to get involved with that. We haven't fully executed that this year, but that was something that we've talked about, and providing additional opportunities for leadership development and growth. And that would be something that we are actively looking at, and we've talked about this year, and would like to explore in the future. Other ways, opportunities for service that our students do, whether it's canned food drives. We just had a very successful one before, I believe it was before Christmas, correct? I believe that was before Christmas. Our middle school, again, another opportunity for our middle schoolers to lead in that, and then our K-5 program to participate in. That was very successful. Also, Operation Christmas Child, that's been a fan favorite for years. And so just instilling these values of not only having opportunities to lead as the middle schoolers do, and then again, like I said, bringing that down to the 4th and 5th graders, but opportunities to serve. Jesus served. First and foremost, he was here. He washed his disciples' feet. He was here to heal the blind. He went to the lepers and healed them when no one else would. And so we have to fulfill that same mission. Now, obviously, we can't do that. We're not going to send children to go into leper colonies, but we can still provide them opportunities to serve and grow. And those are important values to us as a community. Finally, I will move on to academics, and then I'm going to hand the mic off to Mrs. Heel here. But a couple of things that we've been working on the past year, and Dr. Wallner mentioned it with our strategic plan, is an opportunity or a management system to track curriculum from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. And there's actually talks of bringing it down to preschool so that the entire program is, our curriculum is stored in one facility, or one online facility, I should say, one online program. What that allows us to do is to make sure that our academic program from currently kindergarten, but again, plans to go down into preschool as well, is tracked from preschool all the way to 8th grade to ensure that there's no gaps in learning, that we're hitting all the standards that we need to hit, that our curriculum aligns, not only within grade groups, so like K-2 and 3 to 5, but all the way from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. So that's something that our teachers, our faculty have been working on this year. We have dedicated multiple days to that opportunity, and we will continue to roll that out. Mrs. Heel and I did some training this summer. They basically said it's a multi-year process. It's very involved, but that the end product is so worth it. One, for the education of the students, ultimately, but then two, also for the teachers and the administration as well. So that's one of the initiatives that we have adopted since actually we were already doing it, but that was something that the accreditation team recommended. So it just affirmed, as Dr. Wallner said, affirmed our mission to that end. Another initiative that we started towards the end of last year, that is actually replacing Terra Nova. If you did not receive Terra Nova this past year, it's because we didn't do it last year. We did MAPS instead. MAPS testing is an adaptive learning technology or platform that it's kind of like, you can think of it a little bit like the STAR test that we've done before, where as students do well, questions get harder. As if they miss a question, it drops it down, makes it a little bit easier, and then kind of builds up the difficulty of the questions again. And the goal is to find exactly where the student is. Are there any gaps in their learning or education that we need to fill in? And the beautiful thing about MAPS is that it plugs in perfectly with IXL, which I believe that goes down to, I know third grade for sure uses it, and then the lower grades kind of use it to introduce it, particularly with some of the more advanced students. But the IXL tracks with MAPS, and so if there is a gap, it can be identified, and then the students can plug those gaps with IXL based on a recommended program. For the particularly lower grades, K1 and 2, MAPS also works with Reading A to Z, which is another curriculum that they use. Does a similar thing. It can personalize learning to student need and fill in any gaps that are identified. And so these are some initiatives that we have started this year or at the end of last year, and our staff have been working on. And I think they would agree with me that although there's a steep learning curve for some of them, that ultimately I think it'll be very useful and just overall strengthen the academic program, which, like I said at the beginning, really we are a school, so that's why you're here. So that's the goal. And then we have some more initiatives that Mrs. Heel is going to tell us about. So Mrs. Heel, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. I want to say before I get started, this morning I was at my dentist, and he is on the board of a local Catholic school in the area. And he's always asking me, how's it going, Melody, at Bethany? And he knew when I was at Arcadia Christian, and I've been going to him about 30 years. And he said, how's that going with that transfer of your, administrator? So I was telling him we're bringing on a young man that's been an alumni, and I kind of shared, and he goes, you know what? That is a great thing to do. He said, right now, and he started sharing an experience that they're going through at their school that has become very difficult, coming from another area with different agendas and lots of things. They're coming with ideas. And so I just want to affirm our board, where we've been going, what God's been directing, that it has really been exciting for me in supervising Mr. Haas when he first came, actually when he was a STEM coordinator, even before Dr. Wallner got here and came on as principal, working in our summer school program and doing some things. He just had this gentle, godly, likable spirit that is humble, wants to learn, and just steps up to the plate. And I've really been impressed with him taking this challenge, because sometimes you look at someone taking that role and wonder how they're going to respond, but he has responded with confidence, with we're going to do this together. He knows he has a great team here, and I'm looking forward to working with him. We get along great and enjoy being with each other as well, and we will miss Dr. Wallner. We appreciate that foundation that you have laid. It has been solid, and you've have put it within us. We have it in us because we have lived that with you for these last 6-7 years. So our academic program definitely is what our school is about. And we have experienced a lot through these last couple of years with all that we have faced with COVID and the ups and downs of our curriculum program. But I want to say this, as being a supervisor of teachers and being in their classrooms and being one myself through the years and teaching so many of the various grades, who makes this school happen every day is our teachers and our staff and our Lionsgate and our aides and all of those. And I want them to stand right now, and I want you to give them an applause of appreciation. Staff, stand. I want you to see who they are. These are the people that make it happen. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. We love and appreciate you so much. And if it wasn't for them, you know them better than you know us, and I know that. And so we applaud you. We thank you. I see what you do each and every day. And there's times that I'm touched by just listening to you and seeing how you work with our kids, so thank you. You're what makes this school who it is and what it is along with the rest, but thank you for all that you do. God bless you. And I truly mean that. It's them that they're with these kids every day for hours, and they put a lot of intentional thought and dedication to what they do. And through that, it's through our professional development times that we have. That's been a key hallmark of what we do here at Bethany, is get together and talk about what do we need to change. And when we walk through that time, and I won't take us back through, Dr. Wallner reflected about all the changes, and you know exactly because you walk through it with your children, as to what do we do here? How do we do this? And we've had discussions, we've changed, we've looked at research, we've identified areas that didn't work well. This is a good thing, and it's been constant conversation in order to try to tailor our program so that it fits your students' needs in the classroom. And we have had wonderful outcomes, and we continue to look at that all the time, knowing that that is what we want to do, is to meet their needs. And we did realize, and that's why this year we said we will only do face-to-face instruction. And I think that's the thing that they say the most is, you know what, there's nothing, and we can't wait till we can take the mask off so that we can really truly see face-to-face and talk with our students in a way that is much more relational. But that has been key, is our faculty development. So when you have days off and you don't have your kids, your children are with you at home, know that we're working hard. We actually have several things coming up that I'll be sharing with you about, but one that I wanted to mention is we're always looking at ways to improve and looking at kids in our classroom, from learning needs to the gifted kids. And so we're doing one on executive function, which every one of us learn in different manners. And so bringing trainings in to teach them what are those skills that we need to know in order to meet the needs of those kids in the classroom and the general ed student, as well as those that might think in a different manner. And we all do. We all have learning styles that we go about how we learn in different paths. Some of the things that we took away from our COVID season of adjustments in all that we had to navigate was our Google Classroom, our virtual learning platform. And that's really allowed our students and you as parents to assess lessons, to have instructional videos there that they can listen to again, look at assignment deadlines, further communication between you and your child's teacher. And I know as well, it catapulted your child to become much more digital literate. And I know some of you are probably thinking, there's times where it was much quicker than we all planned and desired, but it really has benefited your children, and you probably have seen that just with this maps, because everything is moving to an electronic form. It requires these kids to be able to get onto a computer and be able to do things with that. And the map testing is actually one of those. It's a computerized test. And so it takes a lot longer for these younger kids, what we have to do with aides in kindergarten or first grade and that. But it really has benefited in several ways. Mr. Haas talked about MAP, and that stands for Measure of Academic Progress, and that computer adaptive skills assessment is really going to address, like we said, those needs that we saw. They talk about the COVID academic gap. What are the things that our kids have lost when they were at home? And it's been interesting as I go into the classroom and the teachers will say, I remember Mrs. Spinelli one day said, Melody, these students don't know how to work in a group. They just forgot how to sit down and collaborate and da-da-da. And did you know, we've had to go back, and we're very attentive to this, and it's something we talk about often, is what do we need to do to give time to the social emotional needs and maybe the learning aspects of school, a classroom setting that they lost in those times that they were at home. And we'll take the time to do that, and it's wonderful to see how it doesn't take long, but they all of a sudden jump on. And it's just a matter of practice and routines and procedures in order for them to have that happen. So that is definitely something that we work on. Mr. Haas talked about the IXL, and that is very beneficial for knowing too. For a lot of times when students want to excel, they want to go further, we want that differentiated instruction that can occur through those programs as well. We have a math adoption coming up this year, so our curriculum review is something that's a part of our whole program, and it did get affected the last couple of years where we weren't able to move forward like we'd like to, but this year we are in the review and evaluation of a K-8 math program. So next fall, you will be experiencing a new math curriculum. We're taking the time to really look at what is best and what's out there, what fits our school and what fits the needs of our program, especially junior high, where we have 5 different math levels the minute they get into when they get into 6th grade. So you'll be hearing more about that as we get closer to a decision. Wordly Wise is a program. It's a real rigorous vocabulary program that we have in 3rd through 8th grade right now, and actually Mrs. Vorlick is piloting it in 2nd grade right now, and we are looking at implementing that full-time starting next year in 2nd grade. And it has been very beneficial. We've seen scores go for the entrance test in high school for vocabulary really jump, and has really helped them having this program, because parents know, you guys have worked with them, it's a very strong, outstanding program to build that part of their vocabulary. There's a program that we started piloting 3 years ago when I went through a certification of assessing students for dyslexia through my 30-some years of teaching and being with students, seeing kids that struggle with reading and writing. And the research shows that 2 out of 10 students have dyslexia. There is always an extreme from moderate to severe, and a lot of people think it's just a reversal of letters, but it has to do with auditory processing or a phonological processing issue, and there's a lot more to it. That's a real just a little bit off the top of what it would stand for, but we realized that we're seeing students that were struggling in this area, so we brought in, and we now have a Lion Learning Academy. We've probably had, with new ones starting just recently, about 10, 11 students that have been in the program. Some have graduated and have gone on to high school. And this program provides one-to-one tutoring for students with the auditory processing or phonological processing difficulties. And we use the Barton Reading and Spelling System, which is a multisensory, direct, explicit, structured, and sequential intervention literacy program, and it's research-based and evidence-based. It's based on Orton Gillingham, if any of you that are educators know about that. And it has really helped with early intervention. When we see in kindergarten, really work closely with our kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade teachers, when they start to see students that show warning signs of these things. We do our SSTs, which you've probably heard us talk about, student success teams or student study teams, and that's for the purpose of having conversation with you of things we see developmentally that your child may not be at this point, and we're making you aware of that. We're not diagnosing these students, but we are making you aware of skills and various areas that we want to bring to your attention. And so know that program is available, and it's 2 times a week. It's done during the school days, so these students can have it done and not have to go after school to do tutoring. They're already so tired anyway. And so if you would like to know more, just feel free to talk with me about that. And then I want to end with our social, emotional, and spiritual. One of the hallmarks of Bethany is we are an academic institution, but the greatest thing we can do here is impact your children spiritually. And that, to me, is what's kept me in Christian education all of these years. We do have the Bible curriculum, which is unique. Not all schools have that, as you know. We actually talked to another school just recently that has a spiritual emphasis, but they don't have a Bible time, and it's key. These teachers impact your students incredibly through what they're able to talk about 5 days a week with your children. We have the Peacemakers Plan. And you know what that is, intentionally helping our students to follow the Matthew 18 principle, which is a life skill that they'll take with them. The Diamond Standards, our new initiative of the protectors that we started weaving into our Bible curriculum this year, has been wonderful for helping them to learn to be protectors with their friends, along with giving them learning skills on how to handle bullying situations. And then our greatest distinctive, though, is the outstanding, godly educators, parents. It involves you, our students, our staff, and our administrative team. That's what makes up this school culture that we get to live in every day. And it is, as Dr. Wallner said, it's caring, it's nurturing, it's loving, it's thriving. We have a growth mindset, and it's like one large family. And I love coming to school every day. I love working with this staff, and I love seeing you in Carline, and I enjoy being and doing what I do, and the staff feels the same way. So I want to say thank you for entrusting us with your children. Thank you for allowing us to help shape and mold the hearts, the minds, and the souls of your children each and every day. We don't take it lightly, and we count it a privilege and consider it an important responsibility each and every day when we're with your children here at Bethany Christian School. So God bless you, and I'm going to pass this off to our preschool director, Miss Vias. Welcome her with us.
Thank you, Mrs. Heel. So a lot of you don't know who I am yet. I am Miss Wendy Vias. I am the preschool director here at Bethany. I have a bachelor's degree in early childhood education with the emphasis in trauma, which really focuses on the social emotional development. I have worked in early childhood since 2004. And in my most recent work experience, I have been an administrator, and it's been a lot of fun. And about a year ago, I started volunteering at a food pantry. And during my volunteering, I met a nice lady named Miss Leone. And she was mentioning to me that she was retiring, and I mentioned to her that I was looking for a job as a preschool director. So she invited me down, and I met everybody, and I loved everything about this program, so I joined the team. So tonight I'm going to mention a few things. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about professional development, curriculum, student ratio, and the vision for our preschool. So we believe that the parents are the child's first teacher. When children come to school, they come with their own experiences and understanding of the world. A lot of times it's difficult for young children to leave their families. So when they're in an unfamiliar environment, we want them to feel valued and accepted. For professional development, I am training our staff in attachment theory and how it applies to early education. This includes the child's physical and cognitive development. So when a child is having a difficult time in class, we want to be able to pause and understand what's really going on with the child and see what they're experiencing. So when we approach the child, we want to do it in a way where they are able to feel comfortable and confident with themselves. The Bible says in Galatians 5:22, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. We strive to model the fruits of the Spirit to young children. By them observing our actions, they are learning how to respond to their peers. This will help develop their skill set with conflict resolution, problem solving, and my favorite, it builds empathy. Since I have started, I've already seen a significant difference among some children. In November, some of them were having difficulties because of their lack of socializing during COVID. But now, because of these methods, those same students are communicating, interacting with their peers, and most importantly, they're having fun at school. It is important because when our demeanor is warm and nurturing, the child will be able to feel safe and cared for. A strong social, emotional, and spiritual foundation will help support the child when it comes to learning. At Bethany, we are a play and an academic-based school. I like to describe the play as playing with a purpose. So we supply the appropriate tools to help the child learn at an age-appropriate level. In preschool, we are setting the foundation for kindergarten. Our academics align with the elementary curriculum of Learning Without Tears. Studies have shown that children who attend preschool connected to an elementary program do better than those who attend a standalone preschool because they are prepared through the strong foundation in the early years. So at Bethany, our ratio is 1:8. So we allow 16 children in the classroom. So we have 3 classrooms, and each teacher has 1 assistant. So we believe that children learn better in a small group environment as opposed to the common 12-to-1 ratio in most preschools. The teachers are able to provide students with more attention, and the students develop in a calmer atmosphere. So as we're moving forward, I would like to send out a survey. I want to see what the needs of the families are. I want to see how we can accommodate the childcare needs. And a few things I'm considering to do is update our payment plan and our hours of operation. So right now we have a traditional school year. So we have a traditional system. We follow the K-8 tuition program. And currently, with that, it takes summers off and it has its own rate. So what we would like to do is have a consistent payment schedule throughout the whole year with the option of a 2-week tuition credit in the summer months, so that way families can still take their vacations. We're also considering extending our hours of operation. Instead of opening the preschool at 8 a.m., we're considering offering extended care in the morning. Extended care option would be an additional cost with childcare beginning at 7 a.m. So I would like to thank everybody for allowing me to serve your students. I try to get out of my office as often as I can and interact with the students and get to know them. And one of the things that they've been coming up to me and asking me is to tell them stories about my pets. So one of my favorites to tell them is about my late dog, Rocco. And he was a boxer dog and extremely goofy and silly. And I have endless stories to share with him, and they just love it. And we were able to get to know each other and feel comfortable. So I look forward to serving you and your families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vias. One of the key words for this year has been the word transition. And God has allowed us to make an amazing transition. I was looking back, and Mrs. Seward, we knew she was retiring, and she transitioned effectively, partnering with Mrs. Asland and with Mrs. Karapides and Mrs. Bryden to make that transition occur. And then, as Ms. Vias just described, she had the opportunity to come on board in November to partner with Mrs. Leone to effect a smooth transition there. And I have the opportunity, as you know, to pass on to I'm Dr. Wallner. I think that may have been a prophetic word right there. I think someday this will be Dr. Hawes. But not in July, okay? You're going to be Mr. Hawes in July. Anyway, and then the church is in transition. You know, we have to be very aware. Some of the most challenging times in any organization are those times of transition. And so we want to be alert. You can be alert with us. Thank you for partnering with us and praying for us during that time and helping us to pass the baton. I began my retirement thinking I'm going to finish my race and finish it strong. I don't want to peter out. I used to run 2 mile. I want to finish and cross the finish line. And I realized, no, I am not running a solitary race. I'm in a relay. And the idea of passing the baton came really clear to me. If you watch the Olympics, the person with the baton is running his lap. But then when it's ready, when you close the end of the lap and it's time to pass it on, the one who's going to receive is not standing there waiting. He is running. And that, I've got to catch up. So I've got to catch up to Mr. Hawes to release the baton so he can take it off, and then I can run a little bit behind him and slow down and get off the track. But I also want to point out something. He and I are not the only ones with the baton. All of you, all of us carry a baton, and every day we are passing a baton to our children and helping them navigate life to where they can run off on their own. Our teachers are very forward-thinking. One fun example is when we were introducing each other at the beginning of the school year, the preschool staff, Mrs. Copty was, I'm Neda Copty and I teach preschool. And then the third grade teacher, well, I'm Mrs. Burdett and I teach third grade. And Mr. Foster said, I'm Mr. Foster and I teach pre-high school. And so now we don't have a middle school anymore, we have a pre-high school department. Anyway, thank you for your patience and listening. Some of you are new, it's like, what have I gotten myself into? And some of you are like, oh yeah, I heard this, yeah, I've been there, done that. But the point is, every year we take this opportunity to be clear in our vision, hopefully, and we are available to answer any questions afterwards, whatever, but I'm so proud of the school. Every day, it's a day of joy. And to affirm what Mrs. Vias was saying, we continue that idea of attachment theory and all that. I mean, that sounds like an awesome thing, but anyway, our intention is that when children come to our campus, in the morning, you drop them off, they will have at least 2 significant interactions with an eye contact, a voice, and a touch by the time they sit in their desk. The people at the car line, people in the courtyard, their teacher in the classroom, and every child feels welcomed and ready to transition into a point of learning. And then you need to do the same thing when you take them home. You look them in the eye, you say something encouraging, and you give them a hug. And you can do all the hugging. We don't do too much hugging with the kids. Some like hugs. I have been attacked by several children. Dr. Wallner. And I just say, thank you, God bless, go. Anyway, would you stand and let's reach out to one and just in our spirits as you leave. If there's someone, please introduce yourself to someone that you do not know. There may be a new face. We have these little greeting preference name tags so you can kind of look closely and see what's up. But let's pray. Father God, we are grateful for your presence in our lives, for what you accomplished on the cross, for your plan for our lives, and then specifically for your plan for Bethany Christian School. I thank you for the community of faith that's here and those who are with us online, and I am grateful for every family that we're partnering with. Lord, thank you for their love and their passion for their children, and Lord, honor us as we honor you. Lord, your word says that the steps of the righteous man and woman are ordered by the Lord. So Lord, we want to be attentive to your leading and your direction, and knowing that you're leading us in the paths of righteousness for your name's sake, that your name is glorified in all that we do. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Have a great evening. Thank you so much. Take care.